and welcome to this surprise broadcast streaming happening directly from Columbus, Ohio, at the conference QA or the Highway, where, as usual, I couldn't help myself and I had to start streaming. I find lots of awesome people here. Finally, getting to meet again people in person. This is awesome. So, I have with me today Gina Carlton. Charlton, how do you pronounce? I always
That's okay. So Jenna Charlton.
Jenna Charlton.
It's that hard CH sound.
Jenna. Okay. So, and well, from a while, we started connecting. We have some friends in common, and I wanted to collaborate. I wanted to contribute, and our friend Noel, also hola Noel. Hopefully, yeah, like he's watching, right? This is recorded, so hopefully he will. And introduced us. We had a you want
Go back. They.
say what?
They. Noel uses they them pronouns.
They okay. No, sorry, I'm super bad at that. And that's part of what I want to talk today because that's very important. That's something that I think we need to start to pay a lot of attention and be open to in not only in general but QA. Also, I am pro supporting the people that relates to a different like identifier. I'm super bad at that. I respect it a lot, but and I want to help it. And that's also why I want you because I think you're better than me those type of things. But well, yeah, and you changed that because you used to be she wrestles test.
I was she wrestles test, and now I'm they wrestle test.
Uh-huh. And that's part of I can hold it, don't worry, don't
Okay.
worry. It
Okay.
should pick your voice. I
Okay.
hope it does. If not, people in the chat leave a message. So, yeah, and that's something that to give everyone a background. Noel and I did a presentation with luchadores and
Mhm.
wrestlers, and I think that's how we kind of connected, right?
It is how we connected. Um,
I have seen people joking that you are gonna bring a wrestler mask or stuff like that, and I was curious. That has that ever happened?
so I actually have one at home.
Cool.
I've never put it on. I am the least coordinated person you've ever met. Like I will hurt myself getting out of bed and have. But I do love pro wrestling. I think it's great, and I think it's this like wonderfully strange allegory for life. So many, and it's actually this amazingly strange allegory for Agile. All of these. So okay, I'm giving you insight to a talk that I haven't built yet that I want to. When we think about Agile, we think about how it's this unscripted but still scripted way of building software. And when we think about pro wrestling, it's this unscripted but scripted way of telling a story
Mhm.
because it's not just fake fighting, although it is totally fake fighting. It's also telling a story through movement. And they're creating the image of conflict without there actually being conflict.
Mm-hmm.
They're also communicating in nonverbal ways, in non-traditional ways. It's not uncommon if you go to like an indie show. So it's not WWE, it's not AEW. This is like your local pro wrestling
It's a
federation.
wrestling show.
Yeah, local show. You might have two people who have never been in the ring together before and don't speak the same language.
Oh.
Like one of them speaks Japanese, one of them speaks Spanish, but they're able to communicate. They've never met, they've never been in the ring, they may have done a tiny bit of pre-planning, but they're communicating entirely through movement and nonverbal cues. And when you think about Agile, we are communicating with words, but we're also communicating through this unspoken language of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We communicate through daily stand-ups. We communicate through the way our code is structured. We communicate through the way the interaction in Jira happens.
Mm-hmm.
Passing a story from a developer to a tester is communication. even if there's nothing additional included there, it's still a form of communication. So there's this interesting, like, nonverbal communication through behavior that happens just like it does in a wrestling ring. And there is this required tension in Agile, this required image of conflict that isn't necessarily conflict. And if it is conflict, it's still typically positive conflict. We need to challenge each other to build quality software. We need to ask good questions. We need to say, hey, I'm not sure this is the right way to approach this, and have real, like, meaningful discussions around it. That's conflict, but it's healthy. Just like this fake conflict that's happening in the ring. It's intentional, it's safe, it's created in a vacuum, just like the conflict in Agile is. So that is my very strange way that pro wrestling is an allegory for developing software.
No, and it totally makes sense. And I like that analogy where the unspoken in between communication and rules, because even if it's Japan, if it's Mexico, if it's the US, it's you get it flat back in the 1, 2, 3, and everyone kind of understands, communicates. Maybe your partner in the wrestling match is not even from the same country, same language, but hand, tag, next one. And some of those rules that I also have seen. I love luchadores and all those type of things. Was most Mexicans watch soccer, but I'm into lucha libre, so it's a bit different. And I love that you have that analogy for all these unspoken, but also fully kind of like a best practice, right? Everyone understands. Oh, we have a Jira, we better do that, and even the Jira platform or the GitHub or whatever repository. We are doing PRs here. Okay, we will follow this structure. Helps a lot of the teams and help them to get together and work with each other, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't know, but there's a little period where everyone is like, oh, what are we playing here? It's like 3-on-3 tag match or what's the name when everyone is in the wrestling ring at the same time? It has a name in English. Royale.
Yeah, like a battle royale.
Battle royale.
Yeah.
So, and what do you see at the beginning? Some of those challenges on the teams, like because you have a little period of aligning that communication, right?
Well, and so we go back to, and I know everybody's going to roll their eyes, but the 5 stages of team development. Well, now it's 4 stages, but because they took out one of them. But
wait. I'm a little bit ignorant. What are those stages?
So it is forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. And adjourning has been removed because oftentimes teams stay together now.
Okay.
But forming, the team is forming. This is where you're starting to create norms. And then you've got norming, where you're really starting to codify those norms and say, these are our rules, or these are our ways of working. And then storming is when you really start to put all of that into practice. And then performing is where all of that really starts to kind of coalesce. We all have working agreements. Many times they're unspoken, but that's what all of that team development is about, is creating those working agreements and those norms within the team. My talk later today actually is about risk-based testing. And one of the things that we talk about is that risk is different for everyone. So we have to create norms. We have to create a vocabulary that's shared around what risk means. Same thing with speed. Like when we think about performance testing, fast doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. And fast isn't a quantifiable measure.
Yeah.
It's not objective, it's subjective. So we have to create norms around what fast is. We have to create a shared vocabulary that our team understands. Now, we want that in actual numbers, not in fast. But still, we've got to create that shared understanding. And going back to wrestling, it's just like for those of you who have followed New Japan, when Naito went to Mexico and worked with Los Ingobernables. Japanese wrestler speaks no Spanish.
Yeah.
Mexican wrestlers,
of course, no Japanese.
speak no Japanese, but somehow this man spent 3 months working with them, learning from them, and goes back to Japan and actually uses it in New Japan. And you're going to say, well, that's all scripted. It's not. He went on a wrestling adventure and worked with another company for a while. When we joined a new team, we're Naito going in without the language.
Hmm.
And now we have to learn the language of the team. And every time a new person joins a team, the norms change.
Yeah, because new person brings also like a
Mhm.
little bit of the what do you call it, peculiarities, personal
Yeah,
traits,
their
or
personality, their behaviors. They may bring a new diversity that hasn't been there before. All of that requires new
knowledge.
norms, different knowledge, different background, different experience. All of that means that we renegotiate what our working rules are, what our working agreements are.
In those lines, I when someone new comes and has to, everyone has to adapt. Everyone
Mhm.
has to bring their previous practices, bring the knowledge and
Mhm.
peculiarities of this person. Have you noticed like struggle in the teams, or and I'm gonna be getting a little bit
Mhm.
into the inclusivity
Mhm.
part of this. Um, what struggles do you notice, or what mindsets do we have to break through to embrace this well?
Mhm. So there are a lot of things that can happen. And one of the biggest, and be totally transparent, during COVID, I came out as non binary. There had to be a new image of who I am
Hmm.
created within everybody that I know, created within my friend group, my professional network, who, let's face it, are also my friends. Um,
Super nice.
my husband, like all of those people had to renegotiate their image of me.
Yeah,
Not that who I am changed, but there's this new dimension. When somebody who's, I want to say different, but different, joins the team,
everyone's different, so
yeah,
yeah.
but new dimensions of what the team looks like, the way we work, of the way we communicate have to be realized by the team. And one of the big ones is pronouns are critical, but it shouldn't be just that person needs to point out their pronouns. It should be the whole team is sharing their pronouns.
Hmm.
Even if everybody on your team is um, identifies as the gender they were assigned at birth, it's still good practice to have everybody share their pronouns and
Yeah.
include them and put them on Slack and put them in their email signature. Um, because I know plenty of people who have come out later in life, like I did, that, if we have these practices already, when somebody joins or somebody comes out, we're already ready for it. We're already prepared for this new dimension of person or diversity that's in our team.
And it's interesting because that crosses only the personal kind of boundaries, or how are we going to accept, but
Mhm.
as well in the practice, I think that has to do also QA inside, like
Mhm.
that acceptance of new people, new
Mhm.
roles. And I'm preparing here for something that I want to touch with you, but how was it for you yourself, um, when you said like, okay, I need to accept this, or why hadn't you done that before, or what were those situations? How was it for you? There's so much around, not at a society accepting level, but a
Mhm.
personal level as well.
Um, it's interesting. I knew that I was different as a child.
Hmm.
My parents were totally, totally accepting of me being like queer. That was fine. But the language around the idea of being somewhere not within the binary wasn't there yet
Hmm.
when I was a teenager. Um, and I was kind of forced to perform gender.
Yeah.
So I did. And COVID quarantine lockdown, you're left with you and your thoughts and your virtual community, and that's it. So I couldn't distract myself with everything else. So for me, like this was just something that I had pushed down and finally dealt with in therapy. But everybody's different. We all have reasons that either it takes us a long time to realize or we wait to accept it. I think that Gen Z is, going to be in way better shape than we were. Like they are totally embracing the diversity of humanity. Um, Yeah, it was a complicated thing, and it was way less painful than I expected it to be, which is nice.
I'm
Like I
glad. Yeah.
didn't there was nobody that like said something unaffirming. The hardest part though is finding the allies that can do some of the work for you. And when I say some of the work for you, I present very femme, so people forget that I'm like a they them, and I normally I put it on my badge. I forgot today.
Yeah.
Um, but having folks who are part of your community, part of your team at work, part of your personal life that are committed to inclusivity, and when pronouns are wrong, they'll stop you and say, "Hey, by the way, remember they use these other pronouns."
Hmm.
Um, that's super super critical, and being that person for someone is a real like blessing to them.
Yeah. No, and it's important. It's from both sides, and that's also why I was asking.
Mhm,
Because, and I'm gonna pull this in an analogy for
mhm,
QA that bothers me or I have observed,
mhm,
and that's why I asked, like, were you comfortable, used to, or why didn't you do it before? And I see that, and that's how I connect these two topics.
mhm,
QAs, we also tend to fall into very hard and specific roles. I'm a manual.
mhm,
I'm an automator of integration, or
mhm,
I am blah. I am he, I am she.
mhm,
And that's it. I won't ever move again. And that type of acceptance, one, because, and I know people as well,
mhm,
like, you can tell, like, from a distance, as you say,
mhm,
you are not in any of those, or you're on
mhm.
the other team that you are assigned, and go on, do your thing. Why haven't you? And I know close people to me, like, no, 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 I'm not gay, I'm not
Mhm.
any other I'm not, I don't know what to does apply there, dude, like, but because uh, eh, I identified him as male, right? But uh, you are, why don't you kind of embrace it, why don't you accept it? And there are some others where I see similar in QA, like, you are good at this other area, or testers that do not do dev,
Mhm.
some of those areas. And drawing an analogy, what would you do to motivate people that wants to kind of come out from those areas, or switch, or feel safe, right? Or
So I think this is a really tough one. And I think it's a tough one because there are thought leaders in the testing community, and there are thought leaders outside of the testing community that demand that we categorize.
Mhm.
There are also people out there who intentionally create conflict between the categories. And I'm going to be honest, for anyone who's listening, in my opinion, the people who do that do it on purpose. And they do it on purpose because they're clout chasers and they get to take credit for reigniting the argument.
Mm.
Um, because we have these people who demand you fall into a specific camp and you declare your party, you wind up feeling like you have to defend your party, your position, what you do. And that then breeds more conflict.
Yeah.
There is no reason that somebody who loves doing manual testing has to become an automated tester.
Hmm.
If you love it, do it. There is no reason that somebody who loves coding and loves automating should have to go become a manual tester. You love automation, do it. There is nothing wrong with either camp. There is nothing wrong with either side. And both of them serve very, very real and specific
Very
purposes.
important. Yeah.
They're important. What I do think is important, and I'm saying this as somebody who really dislikes writing code, is that everybody try the other side.
Hmm.
And you try it not because you're going to fall in love with it. You try it because it's important to understand what's possible. So for an automated dev or automated tester, understanding what's possible through exploratory testing and ensembling and various different forms of manual is really critical to understanding the fundamental nature and art of testing. And for manual testers, spending time with code, even if you don't learn to code, but spending time in code reviews, spending time in ensemble coding sessions, teaches you what's possible in code.
Mm-hmm.
And that again makes you a better tester. So there is no reason that you have to like live in these categories. You don't have to stay in your lane. Explore
If you like it, I mean,
if
it's
you
your
like
thing.
it, do it. But also explore the other side, because you're going to learn some really critical things from it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand fundamentally how software works better because I learned some coding.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I ever write automated tests. I don't. But I now understand the nature of software better.
Yeah, you have the other perspective, and it's. I think that what you say goes a little bit in line with T-shaped
Mhm.
people, E-shaped, and the ones that okay, my good one, let's say, is development, but now I have the rest of the T that I am like. I understand here. I understand here. I might not be an expert. I mean, but I went and checked, and I am aware. I understand, and I see what has to be done. And kind of to me often breaking that barrier, and I like a lot what you said, that the environment or people management or whoever is around maybe propelling that, like when you were saying that, it reminded me a lot of people that no, I'm a developer, and then like
Mhm.
holding with the nails, almost like
Mhm.
this is my position, involves job security, involves judgment, and
Yeah.
it's a kind of a tag that they get to themselves because of the pressure,
Mhm.
and they don't open up. And nowadays in modern teams, agile teams, you have to switch caps, and probably a bad analogy there, I don't know, but now I'm he, I'm now I'm
Mhm.
she, and now I'm they, and I can, it's okay, I want to be switching, I want to be moving, because you get a better understanding of those other sides, those perspectives. And I mean, politics here in the US, look at both sides and get in the middle, don't be so radical, right? And I think,
I'm pretty radical, so I can't say anything there.
but you have the perspective of
I
other
do. I
sides.
do. And I try really hard to, as long as it is something that I can respect, I try very hard to respect difference of opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as you said, you can have yours very strong, but that's the other side, right? Personally, being able to get out of the self label, I
Mhm.
mean, and it's a bit weird because to me as well, Señor Performo, I put it on myself, and
Mhm.
performance. But yeah, I know as well, I don't know, Jenkins, and I can
Mhm.
play a little bit with CI, blah. And the external, the rest of
Mhm.
the team, the world, or whatever, to accept that. And that also cut a lot when you told me when you were younger that was not an option. I was
Mhm.
like, can I come out? Can I say I'm different? Can I say I don't feel like I can play with your rules? Oh,
Mhm.
there are this new set of rules. And I think in between teams, people
Mhm.
and QA as well, we need to establish some of those rules. As you say, I think it's getting better, but if you could suggest something or give the audience some words of advice, because it's something that catches me. I mean, no, I'm sorry, I didn't know, or you
No,
don't.
oh yeah, no, it's something that's so I was stepping into that place of being that person in
Mhm,
this
mhm.
moment. Um, but when I think about kind of everything we've talked about, there's two big things that come to mind. Um, when we think about diversity, it's not something you can put on and take off. Like
No.
it because it's not, various things aren't costumes. But it is really important that we be intentional about exploring our own personal feelings
Hmm.
about various things, and that we be intentional about listening to that like small voice in the back of your head, that says you need to think about this, you need to spend time with it. A really good example for those of you who watch Drag Race is Maddie Morphosis. Like Maddie is a straight cisgender man, um, and he does drag. which is not unheard of, but is unusual. And he has said, I like to experiment with gender.
Mhm.
He doesn't consider himself non-binary. He doesn't consider himself. He's said I'm straight, but he experiments with gender in that way, and that's actually a really positive thing to do. That's when it's okay to experiment and kind of do self-discovery. He's not wearing a costume in that he's putting on drag and going out and making fun of it. He's putting on a costume in that he is going out to learn more about himself
Yeah.
through this form of expression. When I think about the other piece of this and like the camps of people, like I'm an automated tester, I'm a manual tester, we're all afraid of failing. Like let's face it, like I don't want to fail. I don't. It's why I, had a 3.9 going through college while working full time at almost 40 years old, because I'm terrified of failure. But I want to challenge you to do something that I've challenged myself to do since COVID started, which is pick something scary, safe, but scary, and just do it. Like,
Yeah.
say, you know what? Yeah, I could really not do well at this. I could fail at this. I could totally blow this up. But I'm going to try it anyway, because there's something really empowering about doing something that scares you, even if it doesn't go well. Like, I'm in a job that when I was offered it, I was like, well, this is I'm taking a big chance. It's a startup. It's a new kind of role. I've never done something like this before. I could fall on my face.
But let's see.
But let's see. Let's do something that scares me. Let's do something that is completely outside of my comfort zone. Find out what happens.
That's really awesome and encouraging. And I think the pandemic, you heard the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people started to like say, I feel better on this, or maybe I should try this other thing,
Mhm.
and open up, start to experience the drag thing, even
Mhm.
being straight, and that, like, who cares if that's not the norm, or that's
Mhm.
if I feel that I look freaking awesome in high heels, why not? I mean,
You got good legs.
yeah, I mean, I would used to play soccer, so my maybe a little bit toned, so I don't know. And I mean, and that's a silly joke, but those advantages that, yeah, you used to do this, you may be good at it in another context, you may be, it's worth exploring, it's worth checking. And I would say, in general, for the audience, get a look at it, because that's something that in QA I feel happens a lot. I
Mhm.
respect the ones that are good at it and love it, and uh, there are times it's difficult to tell if it's like kind of a Stockholm syndrome. Like,
Mhm.
that's why I love it, because
Yeah.
it hit me, and now I love it. But there are so many others that are afraid of giving it a try, or understanding, or
Mhm.
going around. It's a great recommendation. Give it a try,
Mhm.
even if you feel like the scary part. That is a good challenge or good perspective. I personally will even
Yeah.
take it into account. And I don't know, the pandemic and COVID all put us in scary places,
Yeah.
right? That we would experiment and do a lot of those things. I don't know. Awesome recommendations. Very, very,
Oh,
very good,
thank you.
Jenna. Jana, I will keep messing your name.
That's
Sorry, it's
okay.
difficult to
It's
pronounce for me. It's not used to some of those.
the hard J is hard. Like,
J-
it's Jenna. So think of it as Jen Ah.
Jen
Yes.
Jenna. Okay, Jenna.
Yeah.
I'll
There you
try.
go. You
I'll
got
have
it.
to practice, because also like accent. It's
Yeah.
Jenna,
Yeah.
Latino. Sorry, no, no English. So, but it's a little bit of those struggles where it gets me nervous at times,
Mhm.
and I'm used to everyone saying my name wrong, and
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's part of that coexistence that we need
Yeah.
to foster and be at ease with everyone. And
Yeah.
um, if it's important to me, hey, it's not Leandro, it's Leandro, roll your
Yeah.
R's or silly things like that, um, where we need to be more accepting, embracing on both sides, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
super important. I don't know. I don't want to hold you too long. I don't want to push this. It's super entertaining, and I could
Yeah.
keep talking about this thing because it's kind of important to me as well to
Yeah.
foster that in the communities.
Mhm.
But what would be closing thoughts from you to give to the three people probably that are watching us?
Closing thoughts. Oh goodness. After I gave my big ones. Um
Or we
Gosh, I
show
don't
the big
know.
ones. Like,
Yeah.
which one is the one that would you put the finger on?
Doing something that scares you. That's the big one. If you are afraid of public speaking,
Oh yeah, very important.
find somewhere to do a talk. Nothing feels as good as the first time you get up on a stage and speak. Even if you hate it and you never want to do it again,
You already know it.
you know it after doing it, but also there's still this rush of like, oh my gosh, I did that. So just find that thing as long as it's safe.
It's safe. Yeah.
Yes,
Very
I am
important.
not advocating for doing things that scare you that are not safe
Don't do
or
stupid,
not
don't do-
healthy for you. But no, just find those chances, because our time here is short,
Hmm.
and you are never going to look back and say, boy, I wish I had worked more.
Nah. No.
You're going to look back and say, I wish I had done this thing. I wish I had ridden that roller coaster. I wish I had learned to sail. I wish I had,
Remember
I don't
that
know.
time I did public speaking? Boy, that was crazy, but I did
Yeah,
it.
but I did it. I didn't throw up on my shoes. I made it. All of those things are the things that, like, as you look back, you'll be like, yeah, it was really cool. I did that. Not, yeah, I closed one more deal. I, tested one more piece of code. It was, I did this really cool thing. So
That's
yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah, well, amigos, everyone, going from wrestlers and inclusivity and QA, all the topics. It's awesome to have you here. It's awesome to finally meet you in
It's
person.
so nice to meet
I
you in
was
person after
look-
all of this time.
Yeah, that's was a crazy period.
Yeah.
For the people that want to reach out, follow you, where
Yeah.
can the audience find you?
So the best way to find me is on Twitter. That's my preferred way of talking to people. I'm They Wrestle Test.
They beware they.
You won't find me if you look another way. So They Wrestle Test or Jenna Charlton. I'll probably be the only one you find.
Okay. Well, everyone, there you have it. Jenna, did I say
Yes,
it better?
you got it.
Yeah. It was a pleasure to have you here, to meet you in person, and I look forward to more adventures that we get together each other.
Absolutely. We're going to do this again.
Oh yeah. All right.
Okay.
Till the next one. There's gonna be more coming. So, not adios. Till later. Ciao.